Today's video is an easy breezy everyday makeup look using only Rimmel products from the drugstore. If you want to see what products I think are the best from Rimmel this year and see how I put together this look, then stick around. So let's start our walkthrough of Rimmel makeup. I am going to start today with one of the tinted moisturisers. I want to try this mattifying one. It's called Blur It Out and it's part of the Kind and Free range by Rimmel, which is sort of interesting range. It's a kind of a more natural range of makeup that they do. It says that this has buildable coverage and minimises the appearance of pores and imperfections. I'm going to start with this today to give those of you that only really want a light coverage a chance to see what this looks like all over before we then go on, and I'm going to layer up with concealer and foundations and things like that, or I'm going to see what looks best from my collection. But if you're interested in the tinted moisturizers instead, then this is where we are going to start. I'm going to treat it like a primer. Obviously you might not want to treat it like a primer, you might want it to be your entire base, and that's kind of why I've gone for the mattifying one, because I'm kind of assuming that the mattifying one is going to be more like a complete base if you're just looking for light coverage and a little bit of mattifying and blurring to your complexion. So here we go. I've just applied this straight onto my skin with my fingertips. I already did my moisturiser and everything earlier on this morning. And so how are we looking? That's actually looking pretty nice, isn't it? I could easily just carry on from this point without applying any more of a foundation or a base. I think that looks really good. I actually think this is really great everyday base if you want a kind of a lightweight foundation look that's smoothing and kind of evens out the colours, and it does actually look like foundation up close. I think the finish is not that far away from foundation, but a little bit lighter in texture. And if you're not overly thrilled with how foundation looks on your skin, I think this might be a really good alternative or a nice place to start. So now we've got our tinted moisturiser on, I want to go in with this Rimmel Multitasker Better Than Filters. It says it's a primer, highlighter and glow booster product. I have used this before and I was kind of impressed by it. I'm impressed by a lot of these products at the moment. These kind of highlighting, glowing products. I think they look really good, especially layered with a more matte base, because it allows you to bring in that kind of glowing quality without looking greasy. And I think that's where these come into their own, because if you go straight up with a really illuminating foundation and your skin is already greasy, then you could just end up looking far too greaseball-like. But if you struggle with any sort of greasiness in your skin, then a matte base and then using these highlight primers to bring back the glow where you want it, I think is the ideal solution. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth some of this on my cheekbones. I am even going to put some on my forehead, and let's bring a bit more down on my cheeks as well. I'm going to go in with a blender, a damp blender. I'm going to use this in just a moment to actually go over with either a foundation or a concealer. I'm actually kind of a little bit torn because I think this Rimmel Multitasker range is really nice, and they do have a foundation concealer duo, and given that we've gone in with the tinted moisturiser already, I think it might be a good opportunity to try out the concealer foundation duo. So I haven't applied very much of this, but hopefully you can see we've got a nice kind of golden sheen across the cheeks a little bit across the forehead as well, but it's really quite subtle. I dare say you can build it up to be as glowy as you want, but if you just want a little bit of glow, you can achieve that as well. So this is the concealer and foundation product in one that I was talking about. It's called Multitasker Wake Me Up. It says it's a concealer and foundation with cooling wand, and it features vitamin C and caffeine. So I'm going to give this a go next to see if we can use this as a foundation concealer, kind of 2-in-1. And it's got the cooling wand, which suggests you apply it directly to your face. So I am going to go in across my cheek area and my chin, and a little bit on my forehead, and I'm going to go in with my damp blender and just see what sort of coverage this gives us. This is all going on so easily. I'm really not having to do any blending. I'm just tapping it across and everything is kind of melding together really nicely. The shades I am using here are in the mattifying skin. So the shades I'm using here in the mattifying skin tint, this is 103, I think that says, True Ivory. In the Multitasker, this is 04 Light Medium. And then in the concealer foundation, this is 0. And then in the concealer foundation, this is 045 Classic Ivory. And these colours, I think, are about the best colour match I have found so far. You'll see in my other videos, I try cool bases and warm bases, and they can sort of always be one end or the other of the spectrum. But these ivory toned products, I think, are a really good match. So for your reference, I'm kind of classified as cool neutral with an olive overtone. So that makes things quite complicated because it means I sit somewhere on the border between cool and warm. So another product I really like from the Multitasker range is this 3-in-1 bronzing stick. And I'm going to go ahead and go around my hairline and under my cheekbones with this product today. And then I'll grab brush just to blend that in. I am going to use, I think I'll use this flat foundation brush. This is from number 7. It's a brush I really quite like for foundation or for this sort of blending. I'm not going to go too mad with the bronzing stick today. I'm going to keep it pretty natural, just a little bit along the hairline, a little bit to define those cheekbones. And let's bring a little bit more down here, just so that we've got a kind of a roundness in the forehead. And that is going to be about it today. Like I said, this is going to be more of a natural looking makeup look today. I think up next we've got this Multitasker blush and brush product. This is in the shade Cherry on Point, and I'm just going to go right in on my cheekbones with this, and I'm going to use my finger to blend this out. Like I say, everything today is about looking natural, making it easy, and I think those are some of Rimmel's strengths actually. They make products that are sort of just easy to use. You can just chuck on and go out the door and not faff around with too much kind of excessive detail in your application. I'm going to take a little bit up on my temples there. I like a little bit of blush to come all the way around here. And that's, I think, looking pretty nice. I do like to blend my foundation back over my blush again to make sure that sits and blends really nicely, but nothing too complicated. So what's next? Right, let's tackle these brows. So I've had a recommendation from viewers to use brow mascaras. I have had some disasters with this because I've found that if you go in and treat it like a brow wax or a brow gel, you get into all kinds of trouble, because I don't know about you, but I've got lots of stray hairs around the edges of my brows, and I do not want to be putting mascara on those because it just gives you that kind of crazy caterpillar look. So what I have found works best, and actually this is slightly too dark for me, I really need to go down a shade. This is 03 dark, but I can just about make it work, and this is how I do it. Let me brush my brows first. Right, so we brush those through, and then what I'm going to do with the brown mascara is just kind of pop it along the centre, just catching a little bit, not too much at all, just along the centre, the kind of thickest part of my brow, and just build that up a little bit so that the colour catches in the centre, darkening the centre of my brow, but not touching the edges. So I'm not extending it out to try and make my brows look any bigger. I'm just using the tiniest amount just to create a bit of depth in the thickest part. And I think that works pretty nicely. Like I say, that is slightly too dark a colour for me, so I am going to be on the lookout for a lighter one to try, but that's not too bad. So another multitasker product we have is this Rimmel Multitasker. It says Turbocharged Glow, and this says it's a liquid illuminator. And what I'm going to do is just use it like a kind of on the border of the blush and illumination, where you might put that on the highest point of the cheekbone. Again, I'm going to tap it in with my finger. It is quite pigmented actually, so you want to go steady with it. And I'm just going to spread that out there and try and create that kind of high point of the blush where it reaches the highest point of the cheekbone, and just make sure that we've got a nice colourful shine going on there. So let's do that over here as well. There, and there we go. I think that's enough. I'm just going to take my blender around the edges closer to my eye just to make sure that that's blending nicely and I don't have too much of a harsh line there. So as for eyes, I am increasingly moving away from excessively detailed and pernickety eyeshadows, and I'm really loving these eyeshadow sticks. So Rimmel do a really nice one. This is called Wanderlust. This is called the Shadow Stick, and this is in the shade Frosty Rose. And I'm simply going to smooth this across my eyelid, smooth it in the kind of in this space there, and then blend it down across the eyelid. And then I'm going to pat that in with my fingertip in just a moment. Just smooth it out nicely. And I think that just a single colour eyeshadow across the eyelids is the most flattering thing, especially if you stick with the lighter shades. For me, it's the most flattering eyeshadow ever. Like I said, I'm kind of a bit over doing excessively sculpted and intricate eyeshadows. All of that nonsense to do with cut creases and everything isn't really working for me. I have got slight hooding and slight downturn and a little bit of crinkling around here. So all of that excessive kind of sculpting and shaping just looks like muddy and mess, and it drags down the outer corner of my eyes. So a simple eyeshadow is for me 10 times better. Just a simple colour, a light colour across your lids, blended in, looks great. I am not even going to go in with any eyeliner today. I'm going for a light, easy breezy look, but we are going to go in with mascara. I have the Thrill Seeker mascara here from Rimmel. I actually have it in two shades. I have it in Extreme Black and I have it in Cappuccino, and I'm just wondering which one to go with. Because we don't have any other eye makeup on, I'm sort of tempted by the black, but I think I'll go with the brown. Let's go with the Cappuccino brown. I think that's going to look more natural and in keeping with the kind of easy breezy natural look we're doing today. So what I'm finding here is there's quite a lot of products coming out on the wand, and it's given me a little bit of a clumpy eye. So what I'm going to do actually is take off this excess, because we're getting a bit of excess on the brush. And I'm going to wipe this round as well. That's the tip to use if you are struggling with too much mascara, is to wipe off the wand and wipe off the neck of your mascara. I'm going to go back into this eye with the wiped off wand so that we'll start to pick up any excess mascara that's been deposited on those lashes. Okay, so now I've taken the excess off. I am needing to go back in because I'm finding there isn't enough on the wand to do my lower lashes. So let's go in and wiggle along these lower lashes. Now that I'm going in with a cleaner wand, but the new mascara, it's going on much more easily. It's thickening up ever so nicely. I am getting a little bit of poke through onto my eyelid, which is just something that is always happening to me. And let's go in on these lower lashes. And I'm gonna have to clean that up. It's so annoying. I think it's when the wand is really thick bristled like this is. I think the bristles are quite long, and so they poke through the eyelash and touch on the skin behind, which is rather annoying. But we can clean this up with a pointed cotton bud and a little bit of micellar water, hopefully, just by dabbing along the the brown mascara. It should hopefully just lift off. Yeah, that's come off not too bad. Right then, so there we have both of our lashes done with the Thrill Seeker. So the shade I used from these blushes today was Cherry on Point, but I do also have this one, which is called Cotton Candy, which is a little bit softer if you prefer a softer pink for your cheeks. So on to lips. I am today going to use this lip ink pen from Rimmel. This is in the shade Très Chic. And this is increasingly impressing me, especially now that I have tried some of these lip liner pens from other brands. Some of the other brands, the liner pen runs out before you can finish your lips. What happened when I used the Rimmel one was that it just kept working. Designed much more like a kind of a chubby felt tip pen. And I think because it's using perhaps a more tried and tested nib, a thicker nib, some of the thinner nibs just run out of ink and you kind of can't carry on, which is very irritating. But this one, last time I used it, worked really well. So fingers crossed we get the same result today. I may have spoke too soon. I am starting to lose ink now that I'm doing the bottom lip. Let's give it a bit of a shake and see if we can reinvigorate the nib. Yeah, and it has. All I did was shake it like that, and already I've got a kind of a fresh flow of lip liner coming in. So I've taken this all over my lips because this is a staining product and I want a kind of even base. That colour I think is looking really lovely. And to finish up the lips, I have this Thrill Seeker Lip Latex product. This is in the shade Magnetic, and I have used this before in a previous video, but I thought it was really lovely. I was really impressed. I didn't think I was going to like a vinyl lip, but you'll see. So that goes on really smoothly and it feels so comfortable on the lips. I'm super impressed by this lip product. So there we have it. Those are my best products that are currently in the Rimmel lineup, and I think perfect for an easy breezy everyday makeup look. Let me know what you think of this look down in the comments, and if you have tried any of these Rimmel products yourself. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I am doing a whole load of best ofs at the drugstore, and you can see some of them right here. Don't forget, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.